is the, I took the copies of this. This is the boat team 8 right here. There's your Navy men right here. That one was wounded and that was wounded. We had 2 and that's me there.
Later that day on Friday, we met Thomas Wilkins from Oklahoma City. Thomas was with the 146th Engineer Battalion, landing on Omaha Beach the morning of June 6, 1944. And what an incredible story that this man told about coming ashore. And he actually was wounded. But, you know, just the bravery of the young men that day. And just, my hat's off to Thomas. We had a good conversation with him, took some pictures of him, and his son was there, and several others from Oklahoma City. But another great meeting, another great encounter, and it's something that will be part of our memory and our trip to Normandy. So it's great.
And this is that same building. And this man right here, we think that it's Jesse Cleveland that was killed right there by me, right there.
Oh. I don't know if you ever saw an M-boat.
No.
Them were the later ones. They would carry a tank and about 20 or 30 men.
Oh, that's pretty good size.
Yeah.
That's something like an LCT.
It had 2 Gray Marine diesels in it.
Yeah. Boy, those Gray Marines, they were good. Because we used to, you know, you have the wheel up here and the throttle forward, reverse, and then speeding. And it's like rubbing your head and patting your belly at the same time. And trying to walk. But we used to, you're going full ahead, and then you slam that thing in, and then give it, oh man, those old engines would scream, you know. You get to the point where you can really jockey them around, but it takes time. We hit the wharf more than once. And you never want to do that when your skipper is aboard.
When you brought a boatload in, did you bring them in, or did you?
We got them in.
Let them
we
off
were just
early?
lucky enough that we didn't hit a sandbar. Well, you saw this morning when the tide was out, all the sandbars out there.
Way out in there, yeah.
Well, every storm, it changes.
When I jumped out of the landing craft, it was about knee deep in our boat. Some of them had come in, they jumped out and they went this deep.
And some of them went under.
And then we had our half pack, and they built that ammunition and the M1 and gas mask, and then we had 20 pounds of C2 on.
Well, you had about 65 pounds on you.
If you jumped and had that little lifesaver, if you jumped off this over your head, you might well forget it.
Because your head goes down.
No, you didn't turn over, you just sunk. It's too heavy to turn over.
I made 26 runs.
Oh, just
across
back the beach, getting stuff over?
Started.
Well, I got shot up down here on the beach when I come in, and Cleveland there, the guy that got the picture there that was on the beach, I told him to get down, and he didn't do it. And that damn bullet went right under my pocket here and got me here.
And there's one tanker, he got on the beach, and he stopped because there were so many dead people around. And he on his radio, his commander says, "Get your tank in here, we need it." And he says, "I can't move." He said, "Why not? There are too many dead, too many wounded." He says, "Run over them."
That's right.
And this is all on film now. And he said that was the hardest thing he had ever done in his life. And what he did, he said he aimed his tank at their legs. But he said he wouldn't break a track. He'd wait till he ran over them, and then he would turn. And he was crying. What do you think hit that?
Looked like 3 inches. Tank round, maybe.
Yeah.
It must have been weighing at least 50 tons, I think.
Yeah.
And he came in after you guys had been ashore, brought in supplies, etc. from England.
You say your father?
Yeah, my father.
Yeah. And where are you from?
I'm originally from Holland.
From Holland.
Yeah. We were living in England at the time.
So he was in the English army?
He was in English army.
Did he ever tell you any stories about it?
Not a whole lot. No, not a whole lot.
Well,
really.
We were just talking about that. Most of us didn't.
No.
For years, I never talked about it. I got married, I went to college, raised kids.
What time did you get hurt? He got hit about 6:30, I guess.
Yeah, I got hit.
In the afternoon. Excuse me, is that where your thumb is?
Give me that.
That's the guy that
That's the guy that we were
German.
with. Yeah.
And
Handsome guy, isn't he?
About what time do you think you made your first approach? 9 or 10?
Oh,
or
I don't
11?
know.
But it was pretty good daylight then, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
With the high tide then? You were bringing your...
I'd say medium tide. Only 3 of them survived.
Sounds like about 2 o'clock is when they shut
Yeah.
down. They were
it
stopped.
shut
Yeah,
down
they,
about
they were
after
wiped
dinner.
out.
So after about noon...
And that tank, that Sherman tank, got through and it blew away that gun emplacement. I mean, the concrete shell is still there. It's a little crumbly here and there. This is an old LCVP, commonly known as a Higgins boat. These are the craft that was used to bring the infantry in. It carried 36 riflemen and a Navy crew of 3, a coxswain, a man to operate the ramp, and a machine gunner. The only armor plating is the ramp itself. Everything else is plywood. Well, I think the bottom maybe have some metal in it. It was on Omaha, D-Day.
D'accord.
Used to drive one of those
Ouais.
boats.
C'est light, léger.
Yeah. We carried 36 soldiers.
Ouais, ouais.
Yeah. You have a coxswain, drives, a machine gunner, and a man to lower that ramp.
Okay.
Well, it looks like a Sherman tank, 35 ton, and that might be a 90 millimeter gun on it. I'm not sure. When they first entered the war, they had a 75, which was no match for the German tanks. Then they did come out with a 90, which was a good gun. The majority of the obstacles were set. The Germans set them when the tide was out, so that when the tide would come in, they would be covered. But the landing craft would still be ripped open. They weren't that deep. And another little trick they had was placing a mine on the bottom of the obstacle, that when you hit it, if you didn't rip it open enough, the bomb would explode and blow your boat up. And that beach was covered just about like you see. Well, this is Utah Beach. It's pretty far from where I landed on Omaha, and Omaha is down in that direction. Pointe du Hoc, where the Rangers climbed the cliffs, is in that direction. Saint-Mère-Église is back over in that direction, and that is where the airborne 101st dropped. But Utah Beach, I'm not going to say they had an easy time. Anytime you get shot at, it's not easy. But they did establish a beachhead, and I think General Roosevelt, his famous words were, well, the war must be that way, so let's go, or something to that effect. Calm and peaceful today. If you look out into the water, you can see deep blue water in the distance, and then as you come in, then you can see a streak of brown, and that is caused by sandbars. The ocean, the water turbulence creates these sandbars, and that's why so many boats were hung up and the men had to get out and wade. And you can see the different color of the water from the brown, where it's obviously a sandbar, and then it gets deeper. And some of these guys would be wading to their waist, and then they would hit a step off, which they couldn't see because they were quite busy dodging bullets. And with a 65-pound pack on their back, they would just go under and drown. They were on the high ground because they had to establish their gun emplacements to keep them out of the water. So they hit Utah, if my memory serves me correctly, about the same time we hit Omaha, which was 6:30 in the morning. You can see how much beach is exposed. High tide is up pretty close to the bank there.
How you doing?
Just fine, thank you.
A little documentary? Or?
This gentleman is doing a documentary. This one is called The Return to Normandy.
Oh, wonderful.
And we've had some fantastic experiences in the past few days. I was landing craft on Omaha Beach.
On Omaha Beach?
Yeah. 6:30. You see that LCVP back
Yeah.
there? Well, that was what we brought him in on.
One of those, yeah.
We just left a Frenchman down. He lives on the beach at Omaha. He's a historian. Fantastic. This might have been one of the bunkers that that American destroyer knocked out. I'm going to try to find a spot that looks like it might have been a machine gun nest, because I think that would make a nice story. Ammunition bunkers. Well, all of these holes that we see around here, for the most part, are the results of the bombing and the shelling. And the destruction that we see on these big concrete bunkers is a result of the Navy shelling. Now, this is definitely one of the huge bunkers where they had these enormous guns. I don't recall what caliber, 155 millimeter or something like that, but they were big. And as you can see out over the water here, where our ships, our big ships, were anchored out probably a mile from here, and they could have blown our Navy right out of the water. Shall we go over here and walk around that way? Yeah, see, this is where the pedestal of the gun, and it had about, I'd say 180-degree angle that they could shoot in distances from that direction and that direction. After Normandy, after D-Day, I was transferred to a hospital in England, and the man next to me was Gail Belmont, and he was in the 2nd Rangers that scaled these cliffs to take out these guns. In one of these areas, there was a machine gun nest manned by Germans, which he took out and was wounded. And he was transferred to the hospital. Due to his action, he was given a battlefield commission. He went from a sergeant to a 2nd lieutenant. Later on in my life, in my reading, I ran across his name, and at that time he was Captain Gail Belmont. So he was one of the survivors that climbed those cliffs. Okay, we're now standing on the Pointe du Hoc area, and in that direction you can see a huge bunker, and in this direction here would be Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, Gold, Juno, Sword, and then out looking over the channel was where that immense armada of 6,000 ships was. And from the looks of the terrain, with all of the holes, you can see where the mass bombing and shelling took place. It takes a pretty good sized bomb to make a hole in the ground like this. This looks like another gun emplacement, because there is the pedestal where a big gun would be sitting. It doesn't look like there was any shelter over it. It was probably just a field piece out in the open. Like we passed one way back. But if you look straight ahead, you can see cliffs that are typical to this area. And Larry, I can't imagine what kind of courage it took when they shot those grappling hooks up here and leaned ladders against the cliff and started to scramble up, with the enemy dropping grenades on top of them and actually shooting their automatic weapons down at them. And my friend Gail told me that it was a wild situation, but my goodness, you talk about heroics. These guys were taking such a beating that this destroyer came in so close that he barely had water under his keel. And they were firing point blank with their 5-inch .38s into these cliffs. And they saved a lot of American soldiers by doing that. When you see a hole this deep, it takes a tremendous bit of munition to create that kind of a crater. And this is the first time I've ever seen the channel looking blue. It's always, well, of course, the blue is a reflection from the sky, but it's always been cold and rainy and cloudy and windy, which makes the water look murky, gray. It is so quiet, so peaceful, that you can't imagine 60 years ago what chaos was here. Unbelievable. General Omar Bradley made a statement that every man that set foot on the beach of D-Day is a hero. I can't believe it that way. I've often been called a hero because of what we did, but as I look around, Larry, here are the heroes. These are young men, some of them not more than boys, who gave their all and never had a chance to really live. Never having a chance to marry, have children. These are the heroes. Over 9,000 of them in here.
To me, that was an incredible call that many of these young people made at that time. Most of them were in high school or just out of high school. An old man at that time was considered 21 years or older, honestly. Most of these kids probably couldn't even drink, and yet they were signing up to the military by the millions to serve their country. And for them to be sent to a place where they knew that there was a great possibility that they would never come home is just a remarkable experience.
Here's a boy from my home state, Kentucky. Rank doesn't matter in here. Here's a private from the 39th Infantry. And here's the lieutenant commander, side by side. This is the unknown soldier here. Here rests in honored glory a comrade in arms, known but to God. Here's an airman that was killed. He's a second lieutenant, 96 bomb group. This could have been the guy that I landed. 39th Infantry, it could be. I think one of the interesting things here is how much care was given when they put these crosses up. No matter which direction you look, on an angle or straight ahead or to the side, they're lined up perfectly. There's a Star of David. Well, here again, I'm just guessing, but it could be one of the boys that we landed. He's a private, 116th Infantry, 29th Division from Virginia, killed on June 6, 1944. His name was Richard P. Hall. Well, I was born in 1923 in Kentucky. We walked on out into the cemetery, and Larry is still filming, and all of a sudden another camera person came up, and this was a young lady. She's the anchor person for a TV station in Duluth, Minnesota. And she and her crew, camera crew, were there to do background work for what I would presume would be their June 6th presentation in Duluth. So when she saw Larry filming me, and then again she spotted my cap. Boy, that's a beacon, let me tell you. She asked if she could interview me. Well, who am I? Very attractive young lady. So she asked some questions and I answered them, and had a nice conversation. My parents moved to St. Louis when I was 1 year old, and so I was raised there. And I was an athlete. My goal was to be a professional baseball player.
My name is Kim Kiser. I work for the NBC affiliate in Duluth, Minnesota. And we were visiting the American Cemetery because we were doing a special project in France. And we thought we had the opportunity to make this trip to France. We wanted to go to the D-Day beaches in preparation for the 60th anniversary of D-Day. I think I wasn't prepared for what I really saw when I got there. You see pictures of the American Cemetery, but I don't think you realize how impressive it is, how awe-inspiring it is until you're actually there. All of those white crosses lined up so perfectly. It was really a moving experience. I was really hoping that I'd be able to find a World War II veteran, especially someone who had been involved in D-Day, for my story, and I didn't have anything set up, but I thought maybe I'll get lucky and I'll find someone. And when I saw Louis standing by some of the cemetery markers, he had a hat on that said World War II on it, and I thought, this guy might be interesting. And also, since there was another camera on him, I thought he must have a really interesting story to tell. And so I decided to take the plunge and go up and try to talk to him, and he was very kind, and Larry was very kind about having us interrupt and get a chance to speak with him. He spoke so eloquently about his experiences that day. It made you understand what it was like to be there 60 years ago. I mean, it's something that our generation, I think, has a hard time understanding since we only read about this in the history books. But he really brought it to life, and it was great to talk to him, and I was hoping that by speaking with him and putting him in my story, we would help to preserve that first-hand account of being there on that terrible, terrible day. I just was so touched by how he was so passionate about it, even today, and I was really impressed, amazed that he had been in 4 invasions and that he was able to escape them all and make it through it all. You know, he said, not everyone gets killed, some people survive, but he's often asked himself, why was I the one to survive? And it was really interesting hearing that perspective.
This is the young man that we have interviewed after 60 years. His name is Franz Gockel, and at the age of 18, he was brought to the Normandy area, and he was put into a machine gun nest. He was here 6 months before D-Day, and on D-Day, he and his squad were in the machine gun nest, and all of a sudden they looked out to the horizon on the channel, and they saw this armada of 6,000 ships coming in. But my question was, Franz, what did you think when you looked out there and you saw all of those ships? He said, I started praying. He tells us that these American boys were coming off of these landing craft and they were just mowing them down. Anyway, here we are, 2 old men, 60 years later, talking to one another as brothers. We have no animosity. We hugged one another. Of course, we were trying to kill one another that day when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Like many of us guys, I want to raise my hand and go. I enlisted in the Navy in July of 1942. I landed on Omaha on D-Day, and we trained with General Patton. We started training, had some rather interesting experiences. I don't know if you have ever heard of Operation Tiger. It was late afternoon before the beach was not exactly secured, but enough that we could move stuff in.
You're just feeling fortunate. Were you wounded at all? Or?
No, blowing taps. They blew taps for me day before yesterday. Boy. Isn't that sad? And that's when you give it the salute.
That was really a touching experience as well, because he was able to look at the marker and point out and say, this is maybe someone that I brought in that day. And that was incredible to have that kind of personal connection with the cemetery markers.
This could have been the guy that I landed. 39th Infantry. It could be. No.
Hello, these are the folks that we were traveling with. They said that their family member had crashed in the small French village. They're along with us for our trip today.
Pleasure meeting you.
Good to meet you.
See that young guy there?
Uh-huh.
Handsome German kid?
Yeah.
We interviewed him the other day. He was here on Omaha Beach on D-Day. He was a machine gunner.
Were you here at the 6th of June?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
On Omaha Beach.
On Omaha.
Yes, sir. I'm a survivor.
Dreadful.
Yeah.
But thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I was here D-Day, Omaha Beach.
You were?
Yes, sir.
My brother came out.
Listen, go ahead. I've been crying. I can't help it. It just... Well,
Sorry.
don't be sorry. Listen, I've cried so much that I don't think I have any tears left. You know, the morning when we came in, when you look on the horizon, you can't see the sharp definition between sky and water. It's kind of a misty, and that's the way it was. The ships were just like ghost ships just coming out of the mist.
C'est le seul port qu'ils ont pu utiliser pendant quelques mois pour débarquer tout le matériel, enfin plus que quelques mois. Parce que le port a fait très mal.
Larry?
I was in Berlin in 1960 and walked through
Right
the
there.
Brandenburg Gate and
29th Division.
arrested by the Vopos. I was taking pictures of Russian soldiers.
I landed there.
I learned about
You landed there?
D-Day.
Thank you.
They arrested.
Right down there somewhere.
took our passports away. So we got them. We got it back.
Okay?
Thank you.
We're driving along, and there are a group of cyclists on the side of the road, and they wave us down. And so Larry, being the good Samaritan he is, stopped, rolled the window down, and they had toured Omaha, and now they were on the way to the German cemetery, probably to honor this German lad that was with them. And then they were going to Utah and Pointe du Hoc. But we had a real nice talk with these guys, and Larry has already corresponded with them by email, 2 of them. And I'm sure that they will write back. In the area where our hotel was, it's the old town. It's very quaint. The automobiles are small, and 2 of them can barely get by. And the sidewalks are about 2 feet wide. The thing about the towns that's kind of fascinating is the antiquity of it all. Little narrow sidewalks, the narrow streets. And people still drive fast. They don't seem to worry about the traffic. I don't know when this town was first established, but it must have been a long time ago. Les gendarmes.
Police?
Yeah. See how narrow the sidewalk turns here? It's a Sunday morning and there seems to be a lot of people out. It's the wrong area for me. Being Navy amphibious, I never really did get to go inland. So everything I'm seeing is new. I just wish I could read French. A little shop for babies. A little car seat for a little baby here. Now, some of these buildings have never been changed, but a lot of them have a new facade. like this one right here. They've done a great job with just paint. That morning, we decided to just walk up the street, and Larry wanted some video film of me walking along, and we heard drums beating, snare drums, and there was a gendarme on this intersection, and he was blocking traffic. And so pretty soon this parade came up the street. And these were men of about my age. And following them were these older men that definitely World War II age. All of them carrying their banners. And they were wearing uniforms similar to what our American Legion guys would wear on parade.
Are we missing the parade?
There's a parade. Yeah. I saw a few of the older men, and it looked to me like they would be equivalent to our American Legion. They had medals on their coats. So that's what I think it is. Very impressive. Those flags they were flying were probably banished from their regiments.
In this church, our church, in the 6th June, you have two German soldiers in the tower. From this place, they see the beach and they see the sea. So that happened the 6th. And the 7th June in the morning, the two Germans are still here. An American colonel says, well, something wrong. Certainly they have German observer in this area, and they ask to the Navy to destroy the church. But the Navy was at 22 kilometers in the sea.
Okay.
And with the binocular, they make a mistake between the tower of the church and the tower of the chateau.
Your chateau?
Yeah, my chateau, yeah. And they destroy the two towers of the chateau, and they stop to shoot. So the other officer, American officer, say, well, it's snipers in the tower. And they ask a tank with a cannon to destroy the church. But you see the church have big stone wall. So on the back, the German soldiers are safe. So all the day, this sniper tried to kill American soldier. So the American waits the evening, and when it's dark, two rangers without shoes, just with a knife, go slowly in the tower, and they kill one of the Germans. The other one was killed. The next day, the American service to take the body, go in the tower and find the American soldier, find the other German soldier, and find this German soldier was cut like this. Okay? When they have seen that, they said, but he's a woman. The German sniper was a woman.
What a story.
You see that?
What a story.
The German have make a trench between this place to the other place.
Oh,
just,
okay, along
just,
this way.
Just in the wood, but just very near from the grass. A trench like this.
Yeah.
And the German are waiting the American from this side. And they say, the Americans are coming from the sea. This field is with mines. This one is also full of mines. So the only way they can come is like this. But the American soldiers don't come by this way. They come by the back. Because they turn.
Oh,
and
they came
come
through the woods?
Through the wood by the back. The Americans come because they want liberty. They have that in mind.
Yes.
They are working a job for liberty. But in the other side, you have the German soldier. They do that only by discipline.
Right.
The officers say, you stay here, you don't have to go away, so they stay here.
Yeah.
And they don't surrender. Even when they are wounded, they're still shooting. You have to kill them with the bayonets, to kill them like this, because they never surrender.
The chateau was built in 1680. Now, that's still fairly young for Europe, but for us, that's old, that is ancient. But this is a magnificent building.
That is a shut.
I was going to say, that's probably a shell hole, isn't it?
Yeah. And you see, on the second floor, each window have a stone on the top. The first shot from the Navy destroyed this window. The second take this tower and destroy the tower. And the third destroys this one.
Oh, that one was destroyed.
And my wife is going to, with a picture of the tower before the war. You can see the difference.
What was that used for?
It's very, very old.
Yes.
In the time of William the Conqueror, this house was, if you like, a motel. The Norman soldiers, they come here and wait for a ship to go to England. When they come back from England with the ship, they come here and wait for horse. So they have here like a defense, big wall all around, a house, they can eat, they can sleep.
There was a wall around?
And all around, and one of the tower was this one.
So that was like a watchtower.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that fantastic? Now, the man that built this and lived here, what was he? Was he some sort of a noble person?
Yes. That sign once say that the house is for the King of France, not for the King of England. This sign once say this house is the house of a man who is making the war for the King of France.
Well, that particular beach, I mean, at least from what I can understand, was one of the most heavily fortified and defended beaches in the sector. And there was actually a division of German troops there that they hadn't even expected to be there. And to have all those huge guns zeroed in on that beach, I mean, these young fellows were coming off these boats and being just massacred. And honestly, there was no turning back. I mean, you can't make a hasty retreat back into the sea. I mean, the only way to go was in. And I can't even begin to imagine what it would be like to be in the middle of that, and just having people that you've trained with for a year and a half, 2 years for this moment just being cut down beside you, and trying to focus on that and trying to move forward and do what you were trained to do. And it really, you could almost feel it when you got on the beach, and I can't describe that probably as accurately as I should, and some people would probably go there and not feel what I felt, but to me you could feel the power of that area and what happened there 60 years ago. And I'll never know what they felt when they were there, but I can get a pretty good idea when I watch Lewis when he's talking, and he gets that kind of distant look, and the tears come to his eyes, and he changes the subject, and you just know what a profound influence that's had on him.
Just listening to the little waves come in, how peaceful it is compared to what it was 60 years ago. You can almost see those ships. It seems like right on the horizon there seems to be a low cloud. And those ships, if you use your imagination, you can just see those 6,000 ships all of a sudden materializing. And that's exactly what the defending troops saw. One minute they weren't there, the next they saw the ships. I look out there and remember coming into these beaches, we were scared. If it would have been as peaceful as it is today, might not have been so bad. But due to the rough water, people were sick, scared. This is primarily, as it seems, it says the Allied forces landing on this shore, which we call Omaha Beach, liberated Europe, 6th of June, 1944. When I walk along that beach, it's hallowed ground, believe me. And I'm sure the French people feel the same way, because that was the first day of their deliverance.
The French people still acknowledge, rightfully so, acknowledge the great sacrifice and the fact that they were liberated in World War II. And lest they be forgotten, let us never forget that the blood that was shed on French soil was for the freedoms that we enjoy in our country and in other parts of the world. Freedom is not free. There's a price to pay for our freedom. And thank God for men like Lewis Johnson, who went to war when he had to go to war, didn't question it, and served his country honorably and faithfully.
When you look out on the horizon, it's kind of misty. And if you really use your imagination, especially having seen those ships, well, you can see them. I could see those ships. I mean, I'm looking at my picture of my LST right there loaded down. I can still see that old bucket. Well, as I look out there, I can almost see those ships now. I still can't believe that there were so many. Right over here, where that concrete pad is, and there's a pier. That pier wasn't there, but that's where the Mulberry was built. There used to be a line of sunken ships out there creating a harbor, and those ships, the big ships, would anchor pretty far out, and all of the trucks and tanks would be driven across this Mulberry, which was a floating bridge. An incredible bit of engineering, because this tide is so high that entire bridge had to go up and down with the tide. Amazing.
just getting to know Louis more and more as the hours go by, and just really savoring every moment that we had together. I knew we were making history, and that this was going to be an incredible experience for both of us. But we had a great time, and the more I'm around Louis, the more I learn about this man, and the deeper my respect is for Louis. It's incredible. Everything just seemed to work just so great. We met so many wonderful people, had such a wonderful time, and everything just worked great. Every day was a new experience, a new adventure for us, so we really lived each day to its fullest.
It would be my wish that it would be taught more than what it is. The experience that we have had with the high schools, it seems to me like these young people are interested, but they need people like you, Larry, that are filming these veterans. And I think when you read and look at pictures, it isn't like seeing the real thing. And seeing these old veterans talking about their experiences, that has to make a big impression upon them. The children were playing. They had soccer balls, and they were kicking the soccer balls around, digging in the sand with their shovels, making sand castles. Young people walking along, holding hands. And I thought, what a far cry. The contrast was terrific. But because of 60 years ago, and the other battles through Normandy and on, these people can now do that. They are no longer under the strong arm of Germany. They're free. And I couldn't find one person on that beach that I figured was alive at D-Day. They all looked younger, on their own holiday, as they call it. And these people, for the most part, weren't even born. And yet now they have that freedom. Their country is free. Well, Larry, I guess this is the end of our back to Normandy adventure. And as I look around, we've got blue sky, we've got sunshine, fairly calm water. But the thing about it, when I look around the beach now, there's all of these people sunning themselves, playing volleyball, soccer, having a good time. What a difference now than 60 years ago. It's hard to really express myself. It's just been a great adventure. I've met so many nice people, interesting people. I think being up in the cemetery was really kind of a highlight today. People crying. Like one lady said, I've seen pictures of this cemetery, but I had no idea what it was really like. The impact was really great. Larry, if you look in that direction, you'll see people out in the water. See, but because of this shelf, see, they're pretty far out, and it's still only knee deep. You figure some of those boys coming in were up to their necks in water. I have written my my experiences of our trip, and I've been asked now what was my highlight, and Larry, I really can't. Being with you was a highlight. watching how you go about this production. The Chateau, the stories, the battle in the wood, meeting Steve and Rochelle. Very few people, Larry, have the opportunity that you and I shared.
What an incredible time. These last 6 days have been the most rewarding 6 days I think I've ever spent. Such a meaningful time in my life. It's something that I'll always remember and treasure as long as I live.
I've had a lot of adventures in my life, Larry, but this is on top of the heap. This was my last hurrah. And it was a great adventure. Boy, I'll never forget. I've got my memories. I'll think about it. I'll never forget it. But I do appreciate, and I want to thank you very much for making this trip possible. Now we are in Cincinnati, and it is so good to hear English-speaking people all around. We just had a 9-hour flight. That was the first phase of our return home. So in a few minutes, we'll be boarding our flight for Denver, Colorado. Well, it's been a fantastic trip. It brought back a lot of memories, and we met a lot of interesting people. And we found, with one exception, the French people were very courteous, friendly. In one case, we were on the beach, and I felt like the Pied Piper. There were so many people following us, taking pictures, and wanting to hear the story. Well, I'm very anxious to get home. I want to see how Ruthie is getting along. But I do want my parting word to thank Larry for being a tremendous tour guide and a real gem of a guy to be with. We had a good time together, and I'm hoping that there'll be more of these expeditions in the future.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay, let's do another.
Thank you.